So the next day I got to the legal aid office, and I've always been an early riser. If you ever call me now, usually 5:30, I'll take a call or I'll be on the computer. I was there at 6. I figured people needed to get out of jail, and I was the only one there. And then the phone started ringing. By 11 o'clock, I was named the chair of the entire operation, well, which was a very stupid thing for a law student about to take exams. And to me, the exams could wait. I wanted to be of service and to perhaps for people who were opposed to the war in Vietnam. And that's what I did my next month. And whenever one door closes, another one opens. During that month, I met a young lawyer named Stephen Myers. And you may have heard that my first job out of law school was to form a legal clinic called Jacoby and Myers. And so I met him at that time, and he became a good friend and a mentor during my second 2 years, which basically allowed me to get through law school. I had a friend. To me, connections are always important. I had reason to be there. Not only did we take care of those trials, but I met another law student. You may have heard of him. His name is Ken Cloak. And Ken Cloak was heading up an organization to counsel AWOL GIs who were on the lam, who essentially were trying to, they were escaping, except where were they going to go? They were either going to go to Canada, they were going to go back to the brig, or they would stay running the rest of their lives. And the UCLA law students had a counseling program for them. And Ken and I, that's where we first met, and we were part of that together. And it's ironic that today we train together. In fact, we're doing a book signing together in 2 weeks, where my new book and his new book, we both become part of the permanent peace movement and dedicated our lives to it. We wouldn't have known it back then. When I finished law school, I had one offer, which was a very good offer. It was $16,000 a year, which is big money in those days. And I told my friend Steve Myers. While I was at law school, I was also working. I was at the foreign student office as a counselor to foreign students. So every day I was on a trip helping people, trying to get them lawyers. And I found that lawyers might do a favor, but nobody really cared about middle income or poor people. The alumni would do it as a favor, but it was clear it was a favor, it wasn't a passion. And I told Steve about this, and I told him about sort of a vision I had of having a legal clinic, and it was over wine and macaroni and during our social time. So I told him about my offer, and he said, could you talk to me before you take it? And I said, why? He goes, I like your idea about a clinic for middle income people. And I've got a friend, Len Jacoby, who has retired. Now, by the way, retired means age 28, 29, who had retired, and he was in Europe with his family, and he's looking for something interesting to do. He had been a house counsel for Purex at the time. And Steve was a partner, a young partner in an entertainment firm. He said, I'd like you to be my partner out of law school. I couldn't believe it. A man that I admired, he was brilliant, he was Order of Coit, had really good social credentials. He had worked for it's called CRLA, the California Rural Legal Authority, which really was one of the first legal aids for farm workers and in those areas. I absolutely admired him. And it took me about a minute and a half to say yes. So we opened the first legal clinic in the United States in September 1972. opened this legal clinic, and it was, we did not have much support from our law professors. They thought we were a little crazy. We were going to have low fees, be open at a shopping center or in a suburb, be open weekends and nights, use MasterCard at the time, use paralegals, we had a $15 consultation fee so that people could feel like they could have access to a lawyer. Now, remember, I said September 1972. I was not admitted to the bar until December. So I wasn't a member of the bar. It was fortuitous because in November, the State Bar of California brought disciplinary action against my partners for 2 major violations. One was that we used the name Legal Clinic of Jacoby and Myers. Legal Clinic was considered a misleading name. It was okay to have the name of a law firm or a law office, and even the partners' names could be dead. They could just be honorary, so that people would not get those lawyers. They were long past. However, it was seen, and I think the legal system can be incredibly powerful, positive, and sometimes a hindrance to consumers. And in this case, it was based on complaints that went around in a circumference from our office, about a mile away. You could track the complaints of the lawyers. One of our crimes was our fraudulent nature. They thought, or they said, that people would think that it was free if we called ourselves Legal Clinic, and low fees would be misleading them. There was no evidence that anyone was misled, but that was the charge. The second major charge is that we made self-laudatory remarks about the fact that we wanted to serve the middle income and that it was underserved at that time. And that part of the anti-competitive aspect of the bar at that time was considered the basis of the charges. Now, I've said this many, many times. The single greatest spur and benefit to the legal clinic movement and to the growth of our firm was the state bar, because once they prosecuted us, we could defend ourselves legally, and it was front page news everywhere. Some people think that we advertised. We never advertised until the Supreme Court case of Bates and Osteen about 4 years later. We didn't need to advertise. We got all the free publicity we wanted in defending the charges. You'd think, by the way, that with those charges, they would be thrown out immediately. Wrong. Steve and Len were each suspended for 45 days. And when you're suspended from the practice of law, it's not just a stain on your reputation. You have to let every client know that you've been suspended. It's an automatic appeal to the California Supreme Court, who reversed. So anyone looking at this tape can look at the case of Jacoby and Myers versus the State Bar. You will see how this California Supreme Court venerated and supported the rights of consumers and the right of lawyers to have free speech and to have and encouraged a different type of legal access. And it also, there's a little footnote that talked about there was a law firm called Myers, Jacoby, and Mosten that wholly owned Jacoby and Myers at the time. That was my start at legal access, and it was a very exciting time, a time that led to many other reforms that I've been involved with and had a chance and really an opportunity to participate.